I'd encourage you to take out the Bible, your Bible, the one in front of you, and open up to page 1. T.S. Eliot wrote this. He said, "In my beginning is my end." In my beginning is my end. And he went on to talk about how there's some things that start one way but end another way. So a building that is built and it has a home for people. It begins as a home. It will turn over time. It will be rebuilt and it'll be a store. Or something like a church. It'll begin as a church and over time it will become a bar or a concert hall or something like that. But what he's saying is that, but with me, the way I begin is how I will end. That there's something about this consistency of my beginning to end. And I think about that and I think about Genesis 1. That who are we introduced to at the beginning is the one who we get to meet face to face at the end. The one who is at the beginning of the story is the one who sees us through all the way to the end. I mean, instead of talking about evil or talking about chaos or darkness, anything that we would have these questions about, the first thing we're introduced to is God, our Creator. The one who is sovereign from the beginning, the one who is the good designer, who has designed this world for us. And as we look at this powerful piece of Scripture, it's not just scientific, right? It's theological. It's our theological hope that we are learning who is this God that has created this, and can we trust Him? Can we have a relationship with Him? Moses wrote these words to the Israelites. They were at some point here in the desert, wandering through the desert. They had spent the last 430 years in Egypt. 430 years. They came in as royalty, but that changed and they came out as slaves. But to put that in context, 430 years, our nation is 250 years old. Add another 180 years on top of that, of all this culture that we have here, and then imagine everybody going back to their country of origin and trying to figure out, what did I miss? Who am I now? And the Israelites were now here, had been freed as slaves, were in the desert, saying, who is this person that freed us? Who is it, and how do we worship Him? I mean, we knew the Egyptian way, how to worship. We knew the different gods. We knew how they would have idols everywhere. But they held on to this faith that had been passed through generations. Even though they had no written scriptures, they had no place to meet with God. They had these stories passed down through generations. But now they would get introduced to their God. And they would see Him as a powerful creator, a sovereign king over His creation, who has designed a good world, a good place for them to enjoy, but has also given them some responsibility, as they are made in His image. See, I don't know what you thought when you heard, hey, we're doing Genesis, and today we're in Genesis 1, you might have thought like, hey, okay, now good, we're going to talk about the whole evolution story and got to figure out, kind of what the situation is. But let me just remind you, we can talk about that, and I'll give you my thoughts real quick. But Moses was not writing to 20th or 21st century scientists, right? He wasn't writing to your biology class. And but over the years, we've taken this passage, Genesis 1 or Genesis 1 and 2, and we put it into the classroom. And it's a little bit like taking a poem into chemistry. You're reading the poem and people are saying, that doesn't make sense. There's no equations. There's no formulas. Well, yes, it's a poem. And what Moses had been writing is this beautiful picture, introducing the Israelites and introducing us to who this God is. He tells us what had happened. He doesn't tell us all the things, how it happened. But He tells us what happened and who this God is and what this beautiful world that he created us for. And so today we'll look at that. Now, just so you know, I'll just put my cards on the table, right? I believe in a creation. I believe in a more or less, probably a literal 6-day, 24-hour creation, at least for the last 3 days, for sure, right? But I believe God created it. I believe that he created this world with age, with maturity, right? So in other words, I don't think that he created this on day one. They were all these teeny little trees this high. I believe it was created with maturity. I believe there was mountains that looked old, that had snow on them, or there were rivers were flowing. God has created this for us. I don't think this is something that you have to believe in order to be saved, right? Jesus didn't say that, right? Confess your sins, call on me as your Savior and Lord, and believe to a literal 6-day creation. I don't think so. I think this is something that we can work out as we go. I think this is something that we can talk about in small groups, right? We can have these discussions in brotherly and sisterly love and kindness, but there's a lot that we can discuss. I have a lot of questions as well, and maybe you do too, but here's what I think we need to hold on to. This is what think we need to hold on to, and this is what I'll talk about for the remainder of my time. That God is our sovereign creator. That he has created this world. Okay? He's designed a good world that reflects his own character. I believe that we were created in his image. We'll talk about the role that we have. And then finally, he has blessed these days. He's blessed our lives so that we could flourish and we can rest in his presence. Okay, those will be the things that I want us to really hear and hold on to today. But throughout this talk, you might have some questions. I'm like, I don't know if that's right. That's okay. We can talk. You can talk to some people next to you. Like I said, the small groups are a beautiful place to have these discussions. But for right now, I want us to hear these words that Moses gave the Israelites, that he gave us, that are central as we look at the story from beginning to end. The Bible opens with these amazing words of the beginning. Now, I'm going to read them to you. You've probably heard them before, but I want you to do this. I want you to just close your eyes. I want you to hear it, and I want you to pretend that you're painting this. All right? Get a paintbrush, get a canvas. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to paint this, so you got to paint fast. All right? Here's the words that open the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Okay, you can open your eyes. Show me your painting. What do you have here? We see right there that God created the heavens and the earth, right? Created the whole thing, right? From top to bottom, left to right, everything. But we also see a description of this earth, right? How is it described? Formless and empty in the NIV. Formless and empty. To me, I don't know about you, but in my painting, I have like a Jell-O, like taken out of the mold, and it's just kind of there, kind of squishy and formless, right? But it's empty. In my Jell-O mold, there's no apples and bananas and oranges, like Grandma used to make. It's just a Jell-O. It's formless. It's empty. But we also see a couple other things. There's darkness over the deep. So there's darkness over the surface. But we also see the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So water in here, there's darkness, but there's the Spirit of God hovering. Right, that's what we see here. So let's just unpack that a little bit. God is a sovereign creator of all that exists. He created it, right? Sometime way back, outside of time, because he is outside of time. Time is something that we see that's created in here, but he stands outside of that. He's not governed. He's not ruled by time. He rules time. And at some point, he created this place. But you see what's not in here? We don't see any descriptions about it being good. In fact, there's a couple things that are just a little bit ominous that just kind of leaves us like with some questions. Like there's this weirdness about like the deep and darkness. And one thing that we'll learn, and maybe if you've been following the Bible, if you've been following our last couple series, we should see that darkness is not really a good thing. Right? Darkness is a place of imprisonment. It's the domain of Satan. It's never a good thing when we see this in Scripture. And there's darkness here in this world. But what else do you see? You see the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. He's connected to it somehow. He's watching it. He's overseeing it. And so we see some of these things, and we don't get this whole explanation of what the darkness is. Is that related to Ezekiel 28 when Satan is thrown down from the heavens and a third of the angels are with him? And is that the darkness? Probably, but he doesn't go there. We don't have all of that information. We just know that it's dark. The Spirit of God is hovering. And if the Spirit of God is hovering, there is hope, right? Starting back I think in November, we got these little announcements on our front door that say, hey, over the next few months, there's going to be some construction. The whole city is putting in the fiber optic cables, right? So we can have gig speed to our internet. So first there was an announcement, and then there were the first markings, all the paint, right? The paint markings of all the underground, the water and the gas and all that. And so there's orange and blue and green, all these different colors. And then you start seeing cones. And then you start seeing these big trucks coming in. And then they start trenching the ground and making a mess. And there's dirt and there's garbage. And the streets are ugly. And there's cones all over the place. But they're knocked down and they're ugly-looking cones. And I'm sitting there going like, what happened to my street? My beautiful little street is now like it's destroyed. And I can lose hope and I can complain, which I do. My wife can tell you all about it. But here's the thing. I'm putting hope that there's somebody who has a blueprint. There's somebody who's going to fill in these little trenches that are all over, and they're going to make it look good and hopefully match, maybe repave the street, but that's probably asking a lot. But I have hope that one day this is not going to look like that. It's going to be all cleaned up. And right here in the beginning of Genesis, it's like this construction zone, right? There's kind of these cones. It's not right. It's in process. But here's the thing. Who is there? Who is in control? It's God. He's the contractor who's going to take care of this. He has the blueprints, and what he begins, he will finish. And so some of us may feel like that right now. Just life is formless and empty and crazy. But go back to those first words. In the beginning, God. Life is not accidental, but it's governed and ordered by him, which we'll see as we go. So first we see he's a sovereign creator. But second, we see God as the good designer. Right? The good designer. I want you to kind of focus on the intentionality of creation. We're going to see order and purpose and goodness. So I'm not going to read all of these verses, but I'm going to read some of them. And I want you to see that as we go through these different days, 4 things kind of stand out. Right? This kind of order. First, you're going to see the command. Right? The command will go out. God said, "Let there be," then fill in the blank. So this is the command. It's spoken from his mouth. And then you'll see the execution. You'll see, and it was so. It happened. Just what he said happened. He didn't say this and that happened. He said, this is what I want, and this is what happened. And it was so. And then you'll see an assessment. God saw that it was good. Because what he creates is good. Nowhere in here will you say, and God saw that it was bad, or he was mediocre, or it was good. And then the time. There was evening and there was morning. Day 1, 2, 3, and onwards. But I want you to see too, like the first 3 days, he's going to kind of focus in on that formless. Right? Remember, the earth was formless and void and empty. The first 3 days, he's going to talk about giving shape to it, right? And the second 3 days, he's going to fill it. So you're going to see that as we go through there. But that's what I want you to see. I want you to see there's actually order. There's this intentionality. It's not just random, okay? So let's look at the form in creation, how he shaped it. Day 1, God sovereignly creates light and divides it from darkness. What's the first thing he does? Is bring light to the darkness. Verse 3, he says, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So the first thing he does is he brings light to this darkness. Now, he doesn't get rid of the darkness. He just labels them, day and night. And what does he call good? He doesn't call, and the light and the darkness was good. He just zeroes in on the light. He says, and the light was good. And that's that theme we get to take and go throughout the scriptures. So I invite you to go look at that and enjoy that. But we won't finish that today. But it sets the stage. There is darkness. There is light, which we'll see as we get into this book and throughout the scriptures. But he calls it good, and it is good. It's in line with his creation, with his plan. Well, let's look at day 2. He continues to bring shape, right? God sovereignly creates a division for the waters. Now, probably out of all of them, this is the one that I'm like, how does that work, right? But again, the command, the execution, the command, God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it, and it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, there was morning the second day. Best I can figure is this was like a fog, just this heavy fog. You know, if you've ever been in the real deep, heavy fog. I grew up in Fresno, so I know that stuff. I'm good at it. But, you know, you walk through it and you get indoors and you're kind of wet, you know? And I think this is that thing that God is saying, I don't want that. There's no light, can't get through with this. So we're going to separate this. I'm going to put water up in the clouds in the sky. There'll be water on the ground. And so that's, I think, what he does. But here, if you're paying attention, you saw that there's something missing. The assessment. Right? There's no, and it was good. So this day, which is day 2, is Monday. There is nothing good on Monday. So you can remember that if you're grumpy going to work tomorrow, fine, you're being biblical. All right? But why not? Because it's going to happen on Tuesday. He's not done with the waters. The waters are still going to be addressed, and he's going to do that on Tuesday. So Tuesday has 2 blessings. It's doubly blessed. So you can be grumpy on Monday, but not on Tuesday. You better be so happy and cheery. In fact, when we were in Israel a few years ago, they talked about that and said, in Israel, Tuesdays are the blessing day. If you're going to sign a contract or do any work, you do it on a Tuesday. All right, you get married on a Tuesday because that day is doubly blessed. And that's what happens. Day 3, he starts to design the earth so that it would be fertile and would grow some plants and trees, right? So he takes, I won't read all of this, but he takes the water and he separates it, he puts it and calls it sea. And therefore there's land and sea, and it was good. So there it is. He's finally done with the waters, and it was good. But then he continues, and he starts putting, plants and trees, vegetation out. Now that there's no water, and drown them all, and they can grow and all of that there. He puts that there, and he says, this is going to be good for food. And this is important for the Israelites who they had heard from the Egyptians and all the Babylonians and all that it was the gods who are the ones who would fertilize the crops. But God says, no, I'm the one that did all that. I put the seeds in it and I take care of all that. And so when you're seeing this good design, God is all about it. And he's the one that has produced the beautiful and good crops. So there's the first 3 days. We see the form taking shape, right? We have skies and we have water, we have land, and we have plants. Now, in these next 3 days, he's going to fill it. He's going to just bring this all about. And this is where you're going to see everything happen. In day 4, he addresses the skies. Right? It's important for that there to be lights in the sky. And so we have the sun and the moon, right? And all the stars. And that's why that's important for now. Now we have a day, right? A system. I think maybe he spins the world now, and now it's going around in its orbit, and we have this 24-hour day that's happening. But he wants the glory of the skies to be filled with light. He didn't have to do that. But what did he do? Now we know even a little bit more, and I think we only know just a fraction of the bazillions of stars and galaxies that he created on that day. So the psalmist can say that the heavens declare the glory of the Lord. He fills the sky, he fills it with light. Right, so that he could be glorified, so we can enjoy, so we can find our way and navigate and all the other things. But this was a blessing. But he fills the skies. But now in day 5 and day 6, he's going to fill the sea and the land. Day 5, God creates life in the sea and the sky. He creates the fish and all the animals in the ocean that we would never even see, that no one will ever see, way down deep. Because he's a creative God. He creates these birds in the air that get to fly around. He says, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill this world. And it was good. And that was the 5th day. And on the 6th day, he creates life on land. There's 2 parts of this. We'll just hit the first part first. But he creates land animals, right? And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kind. And it was so. Great variety of animals. They're going to fill this land. It wasn't just 1, 2, or 5 kind of animals, but hundreds and thousands of animals to fill his world. Why? Because he wanted to take delight. Now, okay, I don't want to say this, but I have to. The world was created, we were all vegetarians, okay? He talks about the plants, like they are good for food, right? He'll talk about that. These animals are not made for hunting. They are not made for eating, right? That happens as a fall later on. We'll get to that a little bit later. So this wasn't like, hey, he's given us all this different kind of tasty food. No, this is purely for his enjoyment. Because his creativity is that wonderful. He's that good of a creator. He wants us to keep being in awe at all these different animals that we see around us. His creativity is on full display. I'll pause right there and we'll look. And you just see the Israelites saying, well, who is this God? What has he done? He's a powerful God who can create by just his words. So we've got to pay attention. But then we can say, well, is this a good God or is it a bad God? Is it a scary God or a friend? And then we see just his goodness coming out in each day as he shares and he shapes this world and he fills it. We see that this is a good God, and as a good God, he has a good nature. And if he has a good nature, we can trust him. We can enter into a relationship with him. So we see all of this coming together. You know, yesterday we were taking a walk, and I saw on the back of a car a sticker that said, worship the creator, not the creation, right? Maybe you've seen it or whatever, but it just reminded me as I'm studying this, I'm like, yeah, and the Israelites had this culture. I mean, as they are in Egypt for these 430 years of people that were worshiping the creation, the animals, the stars, and the sky, and every aspect of it. And here they're saying, no. God just created that out of his goodness. You are to worship, to know, trust, and love the Creator. And what he has created is good. So also yesterday we took a walk. We were down on the pier at Huntington Beach, and it was such a beautiful night last night. We were right there at sunset, and the sun set, and it was just, the sky was just beautiful. And I would take a picture and like, it's so pretty. And then we'd walk a little bit further and it would get better. I'd take another picture and finally I'm like, okay, that's enough. I can glorify the Lord. I can give him praise because his creation is good. He is the good designer and he's done that for us. But what we see next, we see God's image in mankind. He's created man. He's put his image in us. Now, I'm not going to go deep into this. We'll talk about more of this next week, right? As we get into this is kind of a bigger picture. Next week, it kind of gets a little bit closer. But just look at what's happening and listen to the conversation that's going on. In verse 26, it says, "Then God said, 'Let us,'" and listen to the words make and create. Listen for that language. "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the livestock and over the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, said, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth, subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and over every living creature that moves along the ground." And God said, "I will give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food." See, there you go. "And to all the beasts of the earth and the birds of the sky and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. It's a lot here, but first is this hint of the plurality of God, the Trinity of God, right? It says, "Let us make God, man in our image." And so right there, it's not a full picture yet. The New Testament will add and talk about John, which we read earlier, that Jesus was with God. Nothing was created that he didn't create. So we'll see that. But right here, you just see this is God in the beginning, and you see the Spirit that's hovering. And they talk. They're saying, "Let us make man in our image." So it should kind of pique our interest of who these people are. But there's something there, but he goes on. He says, "I'm making them into my image." But listen, it's male and female, both. Sometimes because of the next story in chapter 2, we think of like men being made in the image of God. But here he's saying both male and female are created in my image. That it's best seen in this community of people, with both female and male, that's what I want the world to see. And this is important because like I said, remember they came out of Egypt, they had no temple. I mean, they would have the tabernacle eventually, they'll have that. But if they were to say, how do we tell the nations who our God is? How would they do that? They weren't supposed to make idols and say, here's our God, and put it before them. But what they just heard is that we are the reflection to the world of God. We are the image of God. Something very powerful in that. People who used to be slaves who said, "You're worthless, you've got nothing, you just have to work for the gods. You serve them only and you better make them happy," to now hear this, you are made in the image of God. We do good. God creates good things, and he created us as good. And we'll see here, very good. And you're made in our image. And you're given a job, and that's to rule over this world and subdue it, to bring order and structure, just like God did to the world, so we get to do that. That's a far different story than being slaves to the gods, doing exactly what they want when they want it done. But they were given this order to subdue this world, to protect it, to take care of it. Like the good shepherd who will take care of his sheep and protect them and feed them and watch over them, so we get to do that. Like a good king who takes care of his people and loves them and provides for them, so we get to do that in this world. But we do it in the way, in the heart of God, not doing it for our own desires and our own power, right? Not to coerce people, but we do it with the love of God, which we'll see perfectly through Jesus, who came and showed us what lordship looks like. Lordship is serving, caring, and loving people around us. You know, as we get into the New Testament, we'll see these different words that he calls us. We're called saints. We're called priests. But right here at the beginning, to these ex-slaves, he calls them, they are the image of God. You are God's design, you are his creation, and you are very good. We get to live that out. And it's hard. It's hard to live the mind of Christ. It's hard to live that way. But when the Spirit of God is hovering, anything is possible. When the Spirit of God is living in us, he can do anything, right? We have the Spirit of God, not just hovering over us, but living inside of us. But let me finish with this. I'll bring it together here. We see God's invitation to flourish. As we come to day 7, I would say this is the most important day. Right? It's the last, but the most important day. Now you might say, well, hold on, wait. Isn't day 6 the most important day? I mean, that's the day that we were created. Oh, day 6 is wonderful. It is a good day. But look at this. Look at what he's doing on the 7th day for his people. Remember, ex-slaves who never had a break, who never had rest, who never had a vacation, didn't have a weekend, worked, especially at the end of their time when Pharaoh said, now double time it, make more. Think of them and then them hearing these words. Chapter 2, verse 1, 2, and 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Sometimes we pass over this a little bit too fast, but can we just sit here just for a minute? Like, God rested. He finished his work of creating, which was amazing. But he rested. What does rest mean? Did he sleep? All right, he had been working so hard, now he just needed a good sleep. He'd been staying up 24 hours a day to get all this done, like studying for a final, and now he was crashing. No, that's not it. That's not what it means. God doesn't sleep. Does it mean, oh man, he worked so hard he needed a vacation? I just got to unplug for a little bit. No, God doesn't need to do that. He doesn't take vacations. Did it mean that he was just exhausted? He couldn't move a finger anymore? No. He doesn't get exhausted. Does it mean he was just so much mental energy, he just had to scroll on social media, just kind of doom scrolling all afternoon and into the evening? No. That's not what that might be rest for us, but that's not what he's talking about here. Biblical rest means celebrating completion. It means enjoying what is before you, enjoying the creation. It's delight, satisfaction, enjoyment, and peace. Pastor Danny talked about this last week. He said, when we go through this book, remember these words of blessing, right? This theme of blessing that we're going to see throughout here. And this is it. This is the biblical rest. It's the letting us flourish under his care. Let me just talk about rest being 3 things that we see here. Rest is blessed, holy, and unending. Okay? Blessed. God blessed the 7th day. Right? This is one of the blessings that he has here. He's blessing this day. Right? And what does that mean? It just means that it's okay to rest. It is a good thing. We can be in community, and probably we're in best community with God when we take time to stop working. Because he's blessing this time. We don't have to feel guilty about it. We can enjoy it. He's given it to us. This is a day where we get to flourish in God's pleasure. Our pleasure of Him and His pleasure of us. Now, our culture doesn't do this very well, right? And I'm a product of my culture too. So these are words I have to hear. But it's a spiritual thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a thing of flourishing when we take time to rest, because He's blessed it. The second is it's holy. All right? He made this day holy. Certainly not Monday, right? But this day is. On this day, we don't need to work and create and produce and make things. On this day, we get to have it be a holy day. We get to worship Him. We get to spend time in community, serving alongside each other. We get to do good and see justice grow. We get to bring order into our world and build our relationships that we have. It might be sleeping too, right? It might be vegging out. But it's these things as well. It's being in community. It's being in relationship. Being in your small group and talking about the Bible or talking about life. This is what it means to be holy. I remember when I was younger, I heard a local pastor. He was in an interview, and it was at a conference, and they were interviewing him about his preaching. And they said, "Hey, Pastor, when do you start preparing your sermon each week?" And he said, "Right after I'm done on Sunday." Sunday night, I start preparing for that. And, at that time I was a youth pastor. I'm like, it doesn't take me that much time. I don't have to worry about it. But I kept it in my mind. And when I became a senior pastor, I remembered that. And there was a time where I'm like, you know what? I got to do that. I got to start working on my sermon for next week on Sunday night. So I'd bring home my commentaries from church and kind of have them in the kitchen. And I'd start to look at it. And then I just realized, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm robbing myself of this blessed and holy day. I'm not trusting God that He's got me on Monday through Saturday. That I have to earn it right now. Now, some of you might be saying, well, I wish you would do a little bit more preparation. I understand, but honestly, I think it would be worse if I did. I think I would not be as whole unless I just sit there and enjoy the Sabbath and enjoy the rest. And so I stopped doing that and just said, I am going to enjoy these days. I'm going to try to take a nap. I'm going to try to enjoy. I'm going to try to just be still, enjoy some relationships, maybe bring some order to my backyard or whatever, but do it all in this relationship with God that He's given me. So it's blessed, it's holy, and here's what I'd say too, unending. Now, where do I see that? I don't see those words in there, but do you realize what is not there? Remember the structure that we had? There's no last ending or time to it. Do you remember? It doesn't say, and there was morning and there was evening, the seventh day. Why? Well, I have no idea. I need someone to teach me. But here's what I think. This is just what I think. I think because we're still in a day of rest. I think we're still to enjoy that. Yes, there's a day that we can set aside, but we don't have to wait for that one day to come each week in order to enjoy, in order to be with our God, to talk with Him and enjoy that time and understand how loved we are and how cherished. I think that continues today, that we're still in that seventh day. And I think that's the seventh day that we're gonna continue in the new kingdom when God comes and we get to see this new world. Will also be a day of rest. So that's why I say that this is the greatest blessing. Yes, He's made us in His image, and yes, He's filled it, and we have this beautiful world. But look at the love that He showed these ex-slaves, saying, I know you do a lot, but it's really, really important that you take time to rest. Because I've blessed it, I've made it holy, and it's not going anywhere. We get to enjoy it today. So, there we are. In the beginning, God. Who is this God? He's a creator. But what kind of a creator? Does he create good, or does He create chaos and bad and crazy stuff? We saw that he's a good creator. And he draws us into this relationship, this loving relationship, which we'll continue to see, especially next week and onward. But you can trust him. Your life may feel like a construction zone. You might feel like there's a lot of darkness and there's a lot of empty. But if there is, know that God is not done, that he's still creating a good work in you, in your life. He will not leave you, will not forsake you. He will continue that work until it is accomplished. And we get to rest in him. So may you find rest in your great and good Creator. Amen.